What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Read Step. I am your host, Isaiah Ruiz, and the Read Step is going to be my new show where I talk about college football and the NFL, along with high school football too. Once the season comes back rolling around, we're talking about next year in 2025. But today, I want us to solely focus on the USC Trojans who just played their game against the Texas A&M Aggies in the Las Vegas Bowl. I believe it was the Las Vegas Bowl. Played in Las Vegas. They started the season out against LSU, obviously at the beginning of the year in September, and they showed up and they showed out against LSU, and that was a completely different team, and we'll get into that a little bit later in the show. But they started the season strong with a huge win over LSU. At the time was ranked 13th, and USC I believe was ranked 21 or 22, somewhere around there. Now, some of my takeaways from today. First of all, Jacoby Lane, absolute beast, one of the best players that I've seen. At least in my opinion, one of the best players that I've seen at USC is from the wide receiver standpoint when it comes to talent in a few years. I mean, Zachariah Branch, guy that, in my opinion, I think is an elite player who left the program just recently, as of last or 2 weeks ago. Really killer for us, but I think this is going to open up the lane for Jacoby Lane to really start getting into his zone even more, along with Makai Lemon, who we are also going to talk about. Also, on some of the things to note too, even though I am a USC fan, a lot of this show is going to be talking about USC. I try to remain objective as possible, so sometimes it may seem like I'm hating on USC. It may seem like I'm not, whatever the case may be. Some people say, oh, bandwagon OU, bandwagon OU. I'm going to try to remain as objective as possible. I love the USC program, have since I was a kid, since Reggie Bush, Matt Leinart were there, to Juju, Adoree, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Drake London, all those cats, some of those guys are some of the best players to ever play at the program. And I try to remain as objective as possible. And let's call it what it is. This season was one of the worst seasons I think I have seen from a USC program in a long time. Now, the end of the season, 7-6. Once again, the end of the Las Vegas Bowl. With a victory over Texas A&M. 2-0, by the way, against an SEC school. They're 2-0 against the SEC, LSU, and Texas A&M, which is a great sign for the program, obviously, and it's something that us as USC fans love to see. But one of the things that, matter of fact, not even one, just a lot of the things that happened this year just completely fell apart. I think some players that ended up transferring, and we might as well just get right into it. Some of the players that ended up transferring, like Zachariah Branch, Deuce Robinson, Quentin Joyner, which that one hit hard too. Mason Murphy. I mean, some of these guys are, quite honestly, I mean, Miller Moss, we also knew, I mean, we kind of figured though he was going to transfer eventually. He was struggling, ended up getting benched. So, we all wish him the best as USC fans, but I mean, I think it was time for him to go. But you could make the argument that he also was, quite honestly, I mean, a lot of it had to do with probably a lack of talent for sure, but when you're Lincoln Riley and you coach back to back, however many Heisman Trophy winners with Kyler Murray, Baker Mayfield, I mean, at some point, I just feel like him as a coach, and I would say this, I am advocating that next year, if it has another season like this where there's end up in a bowl game 6-6, he should 1000% get fired. And on top of that, the fact that you lose 19 players, all of your 5 stars, that's just unacceptable as a head coach. In today's day and age for the USC football program. Let me say it, the USC football program. It's one of the few programs where the only thing you have to sell as a head coach really is just money. You don't have to sell the location. You don't have to sell the beach. You don't have to sell, let's call it what it is, you don't have to sell the women to a lot of these players. You don't have to sell the campus. It's a beautiful campus. You don't have to sell anything except for the money itself, and he, for some reason, can't seem to do that. Needs to. I agree. I saw Keyshawn's show a couple of weeks ago when he was talking about not having enough players from California, and I could not agree more. And to use the word of Keyshawn Johnson, he does in fact need to stop fucking around in Texas and start bringing in more kids from California. I don't care what you have to do. I don't care what it takes. I just feel like it's so important, and people could say, oh well, the days of people staying here and kids staying here in staying in California just aren't. They're not going to do that anymore. Yeah, I understand that, but you could still, again, we're talking about the USC football program. USC's got money. I don't know what they're doing with it. I don't know why they're choosing not to spend it. I don't know what the case is. But literally 20 years ago, we got in trouble, or at the time it was when it was happening because it was illegal technically at the time. But USC eventually got in trouble for doing that way too well, being the by far the best at it. And now 20 years later, when you could spend millions of dollars to cars, penthouse, you can't seem to bring in players for your program at USC. I'm sorry, but that's just unacceptable. It's unacceptable, and I just feel like this program right now is a little bit lost. I need again. I understand they won today, but I feel like they're a little bit lost. And Lincoln 2025 is going to be the most crucial year for Lincoln Riley as a head coach for USC football. And if he does not go out of his way and get it players and bring players, whether it be the portal, high school players, and that's another too. He does need to bring in high school players. You do need to start paying high school players and bringing in the top, and I mean the absolute front of the line players from the portal. You can't be to lose 19 players and then on top of that you're not really getting players back. I understand they got that guy from Kentucky, and I understand they're getting some. They are getting some pretty good players, and I understand obviously Longstreet coming in. I hope he does start next year, but Longstreet coming in it's a good sign. But losing 19 players, losing Zachariah Branch, Deuce Robinson, Quentin Joyner, Miller Moss, Mason Murphy. I mean, the list goes on and on. Thank God we didn't lose Jacoby Lane or Makai Lemon. But I will tell you this: if USC has the same season that they had this year, regardless if it ends up in the Las Vegas bowl game again against the top or pretty decent SEC school, Makai Lemon and Jacoby, they'll be leaving the program. They'll be transferring and hitting the transfer portal too. I guarantee it. And so on top of that, you're going to leave Hassan Longstreet, and I apologize if I'm butchering his name, but Hassan Longstreet with no talent, no players. You're probably going to get fired as a head coach, and you're probably not going to be able to keep Dan Tomlin. So USC is in a very weird place right now. I'm not going to let this win distract me from understanding that USC is in a very weird place right now as a program, and it's pretty alarming. But going back to the game, though, again, as far as Jaden, I'm going to start with the quarterback. Jaden Mayava, I think, came in and he did a pretty good job, but he's not selling me. He's not selling any. He's not selling any USC football fan at all. Now I don't know if he comes back. Maybe he does. Maybe he doesn't. But he's gonna. I think next year he starts off on the bench behind Longstreet. I understand Longstreet is a true freshman, but I would just at this point. I think I would just rather start Longstreet, see what he has, and ride with him. And if you're Lincoln Riley, while at the same time, yes, you have no margin for error next year. I just don't see Jaden Mayava being the start. I mean, today he was 22 of 39, 295 yards, 4 touchdowns. He had a QBR of 73.6, and most glaring one is he had 3 interceptions. That seems like kind of a bit of a glaring issue with Mayava over the last couple months that he's been getting a lot of playing time, and that's my biggest issue with him. I think he needs a lot of work. I think he needs to get back in the quarterback room. He needs to really develop this offseason. Maybe he can. Maybe go and watch some film, develop better physically, work on his throws, work on his accuracy. He has a little bit of playmaking ability. We've seen it before, but I just think he needs a lot of work. And if I'm the head coach of the football program, if I'm Lincoln Riley, I just think Hassan Longstreet, given that he's going to be a true freshman, you start him now. You start him young. Even if I do think USC next year does need to make the playoffs for sure. Again, or Lincoln Riley's gone, but I think Hassan Longstreet, even if you start him, get to the playoffs as a 12th or 11th seed, whatever the case may be, Lincoln Riley keeps his job, but it also builds confidence in Longstreet. It builds the USC program, and maybe hopefully would bring kids to the program. So that's kind of my 2 cents about Jordan Mayava and the quarterback situation there at the program. Brian Jackson, I think now that Quentin Joyner's gone, which is a huge blow. Quentin Joyner, I think, was going to be one of the best running backs in the country. I think he is right now, to be honest with you. And I know it sounds kind of crazy to say because, Quentin Joyner, like, he's not like a JT. He's not like a ET. I get that. But if you know ball and you watch college football, you know how good of a pickup that Quentin Joyner was. Now, he obviously went to Texas Tech, not really the most prestige of programs, but he is from Texas, so it makes sense. I do know that he went to go visit Penn State. I think that would have been a huge pickup for Penn State if he would have gone, but I'm glad he's not in the Big Ten. I'm glad he went to the Texas Tech. He goes home. He's in the Big 12. He's going to do great there. But Brian Jackson today, I thought he looked pretty good. I mean, 16 carries, 66 yards, and a touchdown. He's, by default, at this point, going to have to be, obviously, the RB1. Now, unless they bring somebody else in and just lights it up in the spring and in the summertime, we'll see. But I do think Jackson should be RB1 going in. Now, Jacoby Lane and Makai Lemon. Jacoby Lane had 7 catches, 127 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Makai Lemon had 6 catches, 99 yards, no touchdown, but he was very electric, as we saw, for those of you who did watch the game. Now, Jacoby Lane, once again, I feel like could be going into his junior year. I truly, really think he's going to be one of the best wide receivers in the country. I think Makai Lemon could be somewhere in that second, third tier. Possibly he could play his way up to a top tier as well. But I think Jacoby Lane at 6'4", good body control, he has nice speed, good hands, great hands. Can go up and get the ball. He's going to be the biggest weapon by far for USC next year. Going to be the biggest weapon for Longstreet. It's going to be if I was Longstreet, I'm relying heavily on Jacoby Lane next year. In his junior year, it should be his best year. So we'll see how that goes. I'm excited for Jacoby Lane. Makai Lemon also. Makai Lemon, not as big, but he's an explosive player. He's been absolutely amazing over the past couple months. Some people will say that, Zachariah Branch, and which we'll get to right after this, but say that Zachariah Branch, he couldn't get any separation, he couldn't do this, he couldn't do that. Truthfully, I think Zachariah Branch is one of the most elite receivers in college football. I just don't think he was utilized well in the offense of Lincoln Riley. If you watch throughout the season, you would see that he was not utilized well. Meaning, like, how many times, if you look at his highlights right now, majority of them are going to be screen passes, underneath routes. Like, I'm not a big fan of that. For a guy like Zachariah Branch, you need to get him out in the open. You need to, if you know he's going to be double teamed, then you need to set up receivers. I don't know, set up receivers to where he could have a better shot of getting himself open. But there's not a lot of plays that I saw. And yeah, so there are some times where he dropped passes. There may be some times where he had a little bit of a hard time getting separation. But as a coach, Zachariah Branch is one of those unique players who can play outside and he can play inside. If for whatever reason he's not having a good day outside, I don't understand why putting him inside is a bad idea. I mean, I think he could work well against corners, linebackers. Those are total mismatches. And for me, I'm a defender of Zachariah Branch, obviously. I love Zachariah Branch, one of my favorite players at USC, one of my favorite receivers at USC until obviously he transferred. But, now that he's gone, going back to Makai Lemon, I think Makai Lemon is set to have another big year, a full big year at USC next year along with Jacoby Lane. I think those two, along with Husan Longstreet, again, I think they're going to do a great job. I think they're going to help Husan in his first year, his freshman year. And I'm excited to see. I'm excited to see what happens. I'm excited to see where the program goes from here. However, I will say because we lost so many players, and yeah, you could say Deuce Robinson didn't pan out the way we wanted him to here at USC. We could say some of you are saying that Zachariah Branch just isn't all that great, and I totally disagree with that. But to each his own. I think USC next year, it's the most pivotal year in a long, long time for not only USC fans, but for Lincoln Riley the most and the USC program as a whole. Because if they end up 6-6 again next year, I can promise you, Danton Lynn probably might leave. Danton Lynn probably might leave. He's gonna get offers from the NFL. He's gonna get offers from other programs. Lincoln Riley will be fired. And players are going to leave again. This is not a good time for USC football other than tonight or this past night. I'm in Missoula, Montana, so I'm a little bit ahead of anybody that's out watching in LA. But this is not really a good time. We will see how good USC really is just next year. I believe they open up the season next year against former FCS school. Let me look it up really quick. literally a school that our local school, Missouri State. So we're not gonna Missouri State, Georgia Southern, then Purdue at Purdue, Michigan, Michigan State, Illinois, and then October 11th is gonna be the big test against Michigan, and then Notre Dame after that. Gonna be two back-to-back huge games, and then we end the season with Iowa, Oregon, and UCLA. So we'll see in the span of about 6 to 7 games. There are going to be some really tough tests, and we'll see if USC has it. I believe more in the fact that we're going to hopefully, as again, with Lincoln Riley having the credentials he has as a quarterback developer, not only taking kids and getting them Heisman trophies, and also bringing them into the NFL as top 10, top first round picks. He has to absolutely develop Husan Longstreet. Even if let's just say USC does end up 6-6, 5-7, whatever the case may be. I would seriously hope that Longstreet as a freshman gets developed from week 1 to the last game of the season. Because if not, guess what? He's also going to be gone, and he is one of the top quarterbacks coming out of high school. And what's most important, and I want to kind of finish off with this, what's most important is that he's from Corona Centennial. He's a local kid. I don't understand why, again, going back to what I said earlier, I don't understand why Lincoln Riley continues to go for these kids in Texas. I don't get it. I just genuinely don't get it. Yeah, it's not going to be the same as when Pete Carroll was there, because at that time, there was no NIL. It was easy for him to keep all the players from Mission Viejo, it could be Santa Margarita, Mater Dei High School, St. John Bosco, Servite, all these different schools. And when he did go out to go get the Brian Cushings, the Leonard Williams, those guys were top of the top, cream of the crop. Best player in New Jersey, best player in Florida. Those are the guys you go out. And I'm sorry, I understand that Leonard Williams obviously did not get picked up by Pete Carroll. But what I'm saying is, if as a USC if you're gonna go out of Southern California, especially for quarterbacks, they better be top of the top, not just he's another pretty good running back, or he's a pretty good receiver, he's another pretty good quarterback from Texas, or another pretty good player from Florida. No. It is absolutely crucial for Lincoln Riley to start keeping the kids that are in Southern California playing in high school and keeping them locally for college. I went and covered the St. John Bosco Mater Dei CAF championship game last year, 2023, in the Coliseum. One of the most disappointing things that I saw was that Lincoln Riley was not there. None of the coaches, I think, were actually there. I think maybe one of our defensive players were there, actually. I'm sorry. But Lincoln Riley not being there was a huge issue for me. How you are not there where you have nothing but, on that field, it's nothing but 4 and 5 stars, is wild to me. I don't care what the case may be. Some people are saying, you can't cater to a lot of these kids. Like, no, you have to cater to the kids now. You have to cater and give them money. You have to give them a car. You have to give them a pen. As crazy as this sounds, and I know it sounds, I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm not saying like, I'm glad. I think it's a good thing that players are getting paid. That, yes. As crazy as it sounds, though, giving them cars and giving them like housing, you have to do it for players that are worthy. For players that are worthy of getting that stuff. Okay, I'm not saying like anybody, but for players like that, yes, absolutely, you have to. Isaiah Bond didn't transfer to Texas just because, it's Texas. No. Look at what they gave him. Look at what Texas gave him. That is what you have to do. Caleb Downs didn't go to Ohio State. You could maybe a small part of it was because of it's Ohio State. It's even though he's kind of on the hot seat a little bit, but it's Ryan Day. It's all of these different players. Look up what they gave him. If you want to go get the top player, you have to pay a huge fortune, and I'm for that. If paying a high fortune, whatever it may mean, means that we can bring in the Caleb Downs of the world, the Isaiah Bonds, I am 1,000% doing that every single day. I don't care what it is. I don't care how much it is. I don't care how much it costs. I don't care how many Lamborghinis, whatever the case may be, we need to pull out from the dealership. That is what we're going to do. And that is what needs to happen at USC football. Let's move on to today's matchups, though, in college football, the college football playoffs. First off, we got the Chick-fil-A Bowl, Texas versus Arizona State. Now, as nice of a story as Arizona State is, they hell of a job winning their conference. By the way, I think it's a pretty big accomplishment for them. They got some good players. They got some really nice players. Their running back Scadaboo is he's a beast. He ran all over USC last year, I believe, and not gonna lie, kind of pissed me off a little bit. But no, I think Texas wins this, and they win this by at least 2 touchdowns, probably even 3, maybe 4. I think Texas was blessed with, and this is where a lot of the controversy about the seeding and everything in the college football playoff kind of um, gets talked about a lot. I think Texas had by far the best path to at least the semifinals. You start off against Clemson, you win that one 38-24. You go and you play Arizona State, you're going to win that one by at least a couple touchdowns, barring any injury or anything catastrophic happening. And you kind of get an easy route to the semifinals where that's where going to be your main test, where you either play Ohio State or Oregon to get to the national championship. So I don't have a lot to say about this one. Texas, Arizona State, while it should hopefully be a good game, and hopefully, I'm as a USC fan, I fucking hate Texas, so I hope that Texas loses. But I just don't see that happening. I'm going to be super objective with all these takes and all of my picks. So I'm going to take I'll take Texas 42-28. 42-28. I'll take Texas 42-28 and a couple touchdown leads. Now, the big game, in my opinion, this is. I mean, you could argue there's one of the two for sure, but in my opinion, I think the biggest game of these playoffs so far, besides the national championship, of course, is going to be Ohio State and Oregon. Now, one thing that I love about this matchup, the fact that it's also at the Rose Bowl. I think the national championship should be played at the Rose Bowl every year, by the way. But what I love about this, what I love about the playoffs in general, there's a lot of controversy. There's a lot of should Alabama have been in? Should SMU have been in? Should Clemson? That to me, I don't really care about that. It's 12 teams. The last 2 teams are gonna be pretty sorry every year. I don't care if you're an SMU program, Clemson, or a Bama program, whatever the case may be. I don't think Bama's gonna go out and win. If they were to be placed in the playoffs, for example, I still think they lose to Penn State. If you switch them for SMU, I think they lose to Penn State. Maybe not by that, not 38-10, but they lose to Penn State. Now, on the other thing that I was gonna say, one of the things I love about the college football playoffs, the thing I love about the 12-team playoff, now that you don't really have teams scared to lose, I guess is one way to put it. You still should be scared to lose because it's college football. Everything matters. Every game matters. The seeding matters, obviously. As I just said, with Texas having the best seed as the 5th seed on the road to go to the college football playoff, but one of the things about it is storytelling. As a journalist myself. Maybe it's just maybe I'm just I don't know. Maybe I'm just wired this way, but storytelling is absolutely positively going to be phenomenal, and we have one right here: the Rose Bowl, Ohio State, Oregon rematch. Oregon won the first meeting, I believe, by a point, and believe it, as crazy as this sounds. Now, I picked Oregon to win this game. I still think they could win this game, given what I had seen from Ohio State, though, with Howard and the Jeremiah Smith connection. By the way, I think Jeremiah Smith going into next year is going to be the best football player in college football, at least to start off the year. He is an absolute beast. Him and Ryan Williams of Alabama are just unreal talents that I haven't seen in a long time. And I think Jeremiah Smith, by the way, could actually have a better career at Ohio State than even Marvin Harrison Jr. So even though I picked Oregon, I hate Oregon. Again, it has a lot to do with being a USC fan, but I would not be surprised if Ohio State comes out and puts a statement on Oregon and wins by 1 or 2 touchdowns. I really wouldn't. I think that this is going to be a game. Ohio State more than ever is motivated after losing to Michigan for a 4th straight time. Ryan Day sure as hell is motivated because if he doesn't win, let alone get to a national championship game, he will be fired. I think he will be fired. Not saying that it's going to happen, obviously, but I think he will be fired. I think he should be fired. I think when you lose 3 straight to Michigan and that rivalry, the best rivalry in college football, one of the best in sports, and you also lose to a new head coach in his first year against a team that didn't even have their star players playing, that's a really bad look, and it's an embarrassing loss on the program, on Ryan Day. He knows it, they know it, and that is why I think they're coming out with a vengeance in this playoff. in these playoffs, and I think he goes out. I think he could go out and win. I'm still going to take Oregon because Oregon is just a dynamic football team. They've always had speed for the past 15, 16 years, obviously. But if I think this is going to be one of the most interesting games of the playoffs, if not the best game of the playoffs. Possibly, maybe even bigger than the national championship game when it's all said and done. I think this is going to be a hell of a game right here, a hell of a story. Will Oregon continue to stay undefeated? Will they go out and beat Ohio State? We will we will see. Or will Ohio State get their vengeance and come back and beat Oregon? Again, great storytelling. It would be a heck of a rivalry right there. For years to come, now that they're both in the Big Ten, even when Oregon was in the Pac-12, they would go to Ohio State sometimes in the horseshoe and go play. So I think there's going to be a great rivalry for the future to come, especially with these two programs where they're at right now. Complete opposite of USC. They do pay their players. They do keep their players for the most part. If they don't keep their players, they replace them with just as good, if not better, players. So these guys are going to be around for a long time. It's going to be one hell of a rivalry to watch. It has been so far. And, we're going to continue to see these two teams go at it for a very, very long time. I'm excited to see it as a college football fan, as a football fan in general. So I got Oregon winning, though. But again, if Ohio State wins by 1 or 2 touchdowns, I wouldn't be surprised. And you can bet that Jeremiah Smith will be the most dominant player throughout these playoffs out of anybody else in the country, out of any other receiver, any other program. He will be the most dominant player in the country going through these playoffs, and I think he will continue it next year. The VRBO Fiesta Bowl. Penn State, Boise State. I'm going to keep it really simple with this one also. I think Penn State wins. However, I have never rooted for a Mountain West team harder in my life. I think Ashton Jeanty is going to be a little bit more motivated now that he didn't win the Heisman. I believe he should have won the Heisman, but I'm not mad that Travis Hunter won it either because Travis Hunter is an unbelievable player that I also, quite honestly, have never really seen, to be quite, at least not at his level. But Ashton Jeanty is just absolutely ridiculous at 5'9" or 5'10", however tall he is. He's an absolute unit. He runs through. Somebody who's built like he could run through you, he runs around you, and he's just so shifty. He's breakaway speed. You got that Michael Myers dance in the back where he's just so I think it's gonna be a hell of a game. I hope it's a hell of a game. Boise State put up a great fight against Oregon earlier in the year. I think Ashton Jeanty. No, I don't think Ashton Jeanty. I know had a really good game that game. Put up plenty of yards against an Oregon defense, but I think ultimately Penn State wins this game. I think their defense is just very stout. I think they have a great defense. They have one of the top outside linebackers in the country, and I think Penn State is also very fortunate to have a relatively easy path, at least for now, an easy path in the playoffs, similar to Texas, where you have SMU first, and now you get Boise State, a couple of dominant, not so much blue blood programs, but hey, we'll see what happens. I think it's gonna be a good game. I think it's gonna be a better game than people might think. And a lot of that has to do with Ashton Jeanty. I think he has an unbelievable. He obviously has a great old line, but he has an unbelievable ability to just somehow find ways to break out of the backfield and just take it home. I mean, come on, over 2,000 yards, over 20 touchdowns. This is gonna be a great game through and through, and I can't wait to see it. I can't wait to watch it. And ultimately, though, I just think also coaching matters, and Franklin's just been a hell of a coach for many, many years, as we all know. And I think that's ultimately as well, along with the team in general, coached by Franklin. I just think they're going to. I got Penn State winning this one by at least probably a couple of touchdowns, unless something else happens. But again, I think if it's going to be a good game, it's going to be because of Ashton Jeanty, and let's hope we get. I will say this: if there's one game that does get have a little bit of feel like a March Madness to it, I think it's going to be Boise State, Penn State, and Boise State coming out on top. If that's going to be the game, but I got Penn State winning it. I would say Penn State wins it maybe 28-14. Something to maybe 28-17, but I'm excited to see that game, and we'll see it on the 31st. So a couple days actually, a couple days. So we'll see. The All-State Sugar Bowl, Notre Dame and Georgia. Again, USC fans, so you can probably guess who I'm rooting for right here. And it is the Georgia Bulldogs. I think Georgia dominates Notre Dame. Maybe I'm being a little bit biased, but I think Notre Dame isn't as good as advertised. I think Georgia comes in and they whoop them, especially being that this is more. I believe the All-State Sugar Bowl is a close game. I'm sorry, no. I believe the All-State Sugar Bowl is played a lot closer to Georgia. Maybe it's in Georgia. Let me look it up real quick. Yes, they do play in Louisiana. So, I think the discrepancy between the fans is obviously going to be evened out. You're going to have one side Notre Dame, one side Georgia. But who knows? Might be more Georgia fans. But yeah, I just think Georgia's going to win this game. They're just going to dominate. Again, it could be me just being a little bit biased, but I'm still, objectively speaking, I think everybody's going to be picking Georgia anyways. They're just too dominant. The best team in the SEC, beating Texas twice. They lost to Alabama, but they've just been very, very dominant over the course of the season, and many people probably have them as the favorite to win the national title. Some other people are probably going to have Oregon in there, but I just don't see how Georgia just doesn't dominate this game against Notre Dame. So with that being said, getting on to my semifinals picks is going to be Georgia, Penn State, Texas versus Oregon. The Final Four going to be teams that we've seen quite a bit over the last few years when it comes to this playoff talk, when it comes to deep postseason runs. You got 2 representatives of the SEC and 2 representatives of the Big Ten, which are the 2 best conferences in college football right now. So that's kind of what I have, and once we get there, we'll see what happens as far as obviously when the results pan out, who wins, who doesn't win, who moves on. I'm going to be making a video about that, and I'll be posting it shortly. Hopefully after the game, or if not, I'll probably be going live here on YouTube. So, but I just want to say thank you guys for joining me. That's all I'm going to have for you guys today. Thank you guys for joining me on this very new adventure here on YouTube. Once again, the Read Step, very brand new show. This isn't a podcast. This is a show. It's a sports show. It's going to be Fridays through Sundays. And in 2025, when high school football rolls around, I'm specifically going to be talking about high school football back home for me, which is in Southern California. We'll be talking about high school football on Fridays, college football Saturdays, and exclusively the NFL on Sundays. So thank you guys again. I really appreciate it. Go ahead and make sure you leave a like and subscribe. Leave a comment. If you think I'm crazy, go ahead and make sure you can put that I'm crazy down in the comments. Go ahead and like the video, share it with others. Thank you guys for joining me, and I cannot wait for the next episode. Peace out.